Okay, I get asked this question a lot, especially in live streams. Which one do I prefer, rugby league or rugby union? Now, considering that I've played both and I've been watching both codes since the age of 3, I first picked up a rugby ball at the age of 7, and I first had my first experience of training and playing a bit of rugby league at about the age of 10, for a couple of years at school as well, because my French teacher was also one of the rugby coaches, and he was a former amateur rugby league player in France when he was living out there. So I got a bit of rugby league experience as well, which was kind of fun, changing things up a little bit. It was a different set of skills that you have to learn as well. The basic principles of both games are the same, but the skill set required for league and union is a bit different. Rugby union has more specialised positions over rugby league. Um, rugby union is a bit more tactical and a bit more complex. And for newer fans of rugby, and we're looking at North America here, when we say rugby, they're automatically thinking the Six Nations, the Rugby Championship, and the Rugby World Cup. They're thinking of rugby union. And rugby league is trying to, break into the North American market with the NRL Vegas games, where also the Super League sides are now involved. And it is a different beast. I would say rugby league is a bit more brutal than rugby union. Although in saying that, I've seen both sports evolve and rule changes come in, but I have done a comparison video before, and I've done a basic 101 of rugby union back in 2018, where I discussed each position and their roles. And I've done a lot of rugby union content on the channel. But obviously, in more recent years, I've done a lot more rugby league content, and the engagement for league and union from what I get from just viewers is fantastic. The comments and the questions, especially from newer viewers from non-traditional markets, so North America, it's been a really good engagement that we've had for a very, very long time. But I prefer rugby league, and there's a reason for this, and it's partly because of the positions I played in rugby union as well as rugby league. I was an outside back, so while I did spend a while as a second row forward as a teenager, because I was quite tall and lanky as a 13-year-old. I was put in the second row just because I was one of the taller guys on the team. I eventually transitioned out onto the wing. Now, in a rugby union game at youth level, sometimes your outside backs, and even at amateur level, which I also played, sometimes you may not get a lot of ball. You will still have to hold your defensive positions, drop back when there are kicks, and obviously push up. In earlier phases of play, depending on who's got the ball, the weather conditions, the playing surface conditions. But there were some games where you didn't get a lot of the ball, and you were doing a lot of defending potentially, and so that can be a bit frustrating when you're not having the attacking impact you want. Especially if you are having to do a more tactical defensive game because of the opposition you're playing. Sometimes the outside backs don't get a lot of the ball. Now, the fullback will get more ball than the wingers in Union, especially with diffusing kicks. But at the lower levels, youth level, at school level, kicking is you're coached it, but you don't kick as much at the younger age grades. As you go older, you will kick more. The line out changes because of lifting in the line out, scrummaging changes, and you really learn your specialised positions. Because pretty much every position in Union has some sort of speciality as one of their core skills. Whereas in rugby league, the outside backs, your centres stay on one side, so you'll have a left centre and a right centre rather than an inside centre and an outside centre. You'll have your two wingers and your fullback. They are expected to get on the ball more. You will see the outside backs in rugby league basically take up hit-ups, a forwards carry at times, to help ease the pressure on the forward pack, which has a slightly different role to rugby union because the scrums aren't fully truly contested anymore, though you occasionally see a win against the head, which is when you win against the feed, but very rarely. They have changed the scrum laws in the game in rugby league a lot over the years from what it was traditionally back in the day in 1895, when the Northern Rugby Football Union was set up as a splinter group away from the RFU, which was rugby at the time. So there's some history there, and I can do a separate video on that. But when you're learning the basic skills of the game, which is pass backwards, run forwards, and tackling, Rugby league is actually an easier game to learn. The real true specialised positions are your spine, so that's your number 9, your 6, your 7 and your 1. Whereas in rugby union, every position has sort of a speciality that they are good at. So the number 8 in the scrum, number 8 pick up off the back of the scrum. The second row are generally the engine room driving the scrum forward, and will do a lot of and will be lifted in the line out. Obviously your props and your hooker, your front row, that's very specialised scrummaging. So in fact the type 5 is really specialised with scrummaging as well. That's a big part of the game in rugby union. Your scrum half and your fly half are your playmakers. You may have a kicking inside centre, and then you can see how complicated this is. The tackle area is a bit more complicated, the ruck and the maul is a bit more complicated. The game is also more stop-start. It can flow, and the ball can be in play for quite some time if you can get multiple phases together, but at the same time it can be very, very stop-start, and if it's really bad conditions like heavy rain, windy, cold, it can be more of a forward battle than the outside backs getting a lot of the ball. The fly half or the fullback may do a lot of kicking out of hand, which does sometimes frustrate a lot of fans when it's kick tennis, as they call it. Whereas in rugby league, you kicking is a bit more in attack. You'll have a 5-6 tackle set. Final tackle you'll generally see, unless it's a glaring overlap, the 6 or the 7 or a player put a kick in to try and score a try, or put pressure on the defensive team, who will have to try and reclaim the ball and put pressure for territory, or in some cases score a try. Now, as an outside back, when I had my brief time playing rugby league, which was only a short period when I was also playing rugby union at school, I found it more interesting because I got the ball a lot more often, and you have more space on the field. It's a simpler form of rugby. Obviously, there's the big technical differences, especially around the tackle area and the ruck area. There are no mauls in rugby league. But the basic principles are the same, but it's a simpler form of the game, and that's why I prefer it. It's a lot easier for new fans also to learn the basic principles. Now, I will say this. Don't get me wrong, I still love rugby union. I'll be watching the France-England women's test match tonight, which is a warm-up test for the Women's Rugby World Cup, which starts in a couple of days' time. And so, yes, look, I'll be enjoying that. It's a fierce rivalry between England and France. Doesn't matter what sport we're talking about, to be fair. And they're two top teams in the women's game. And it's going to be a real interesting tactical battle, physical battle, and yes, we are going to see some really good quality rugby union tonight. But watching the rugby league this morning from the NRL and the NRLW, you can definitely see there's a definite pace of the game. The ball is in play a lot more. There's less stoppages. Yes, the games have evolved differently, but I prefer rugby league in the sense of it's, especially if you're, let's say, new to the sport, I would suggest anyone watch a rugby league game, preferably an NRL game first, and then watch an international rugby union test match, and you will clearly see that these are the elite levels, and you will see the similarities and the massive differences, but it is easier to understand what is happening in a rugby league game over a rugby union game. It's quicker to learn rugby league as well, but it also, because of the speed of play, the amount of time the ball is in play, it's more physically demanding. You know, when you've played a league game, you are gassed. The fitness levels required are different to the fitness levels required for union, and the physicality. The physicality is different but the same, if that makes sense. Both sports are brutal. They are. And I've played a lot of union, so I should know. Both sports are brutal. But the physical attributes each player needs in union are different than in league. A lot different. Because of those specialist positions in the scrum and scrum half and a fly half especially, because of those specialist positions, in fact every position in rugby union is technically a specialist position in a sense, while the physicality is just as brutal, you still have to work on your tackle technique, your gym work, your cardio, your recovery sessions. Rugby league is more brutal than union. It's probably why I enjoyed it as well. It's why I enjoy watching it. It's why I enjoy covering it as a YouTuber with my rugby league content. Although I cover a lot of sports on this channel, and it's probably why I think it's starting to gain a little bit of traction in the US, which is, it's a small slice of the US sports fandom, and to be fair, Canadian fandom, but because of the similarities, I think a little bit with what the NFL and CFL and collegiate American football, with the simplicity really of the line markings, and it's a simpler game. The ball's in play for more. Sometimes the ball can be in play for without a whistle. There was one game I watched recently where the ball was in play for a good 15 minutes before a whistle went. It was literally, they were going 6 tackle set for 6 tackle set, and it was an arm wrestle. There was some brutality. The physicality was there, and then the slightly either better side, i.e. with skill or fitness, finally found a way to get on top of the other side in that arm wrestle, because their kicking game was good, their passing game was a bit better, although you do pass less in league. The physicality, they might have been a little bit more physical, they might have won that physical battle when it comes to attack and defence, and forcing their way over the game line. Whereas in union, it can be really scrappy at times, really scrappy. Like, there can be a lot of stop-start, scrum, another scrum, line out, scrum, and that can, I think, turn a lot of fans off. And then you can have a lot of kicking, and that can also turn fans off. Although I will say this, there have been a lot of rule changes, especially in more recent years, designed to keep the ball in play more and speed up the game in union. And league's done the same. League has done the same. Rugby league has done the same with the 6 again rule as well. Again, designed to speed up play and bring that fatigue factor in, which will create more space, more errors, but also more excitement. Now, we can agree or disagree. We can agree to disagree on how good the 6 again rule was being policed in rugby league, and whether it was the right rule change to make in regards of trying to level the playing field and bring a little bit more pace to the game. A game that's already played at a pretty fast pace. The only other team sport I can truly think of where it's a collision sport that is fast paced is ice hockey, and that's on another level of brutality. But I prefer league over union. It's simpler to play. Outside backs like myself will have more of an impact on the game, more time with ball in hand, and you can make more of an impact in attack. But also in defence, you cannot switch off. You cannot switch off because there's less players in the defensive line on the field. You cannot switch off. You have to number up. You have to, have really, really good communication with your inside man, your outside man, the fullback behind you, and it is quite challenging. But it's a hell of a lot of fun, and both are a hell of a lot of fun to play. And then the camaraderie around a clubhouse is fantastic. Some of the antics you get up to are a bit crazy and a little bit X-rated, but the club dynamic, the community dynamic, it doesn't matter which one you play, it's fantastic, or which one you support. You see it with local rugby union, rugby league clubs doing a lot of community events and opening up their space for other events to take place. I mean, the last time I went to a rugby union club, there was a motorcycle show, and the club were actively involved in helping organise it, and were very welcoming. And so there is that community aspect with other aspects of the community. But on a playing standpoint and a watching standpoint, I prefer rugby league. I just wish the rugby league international game was of a more balanced, even, higher standard. Rugby union's won the international hearts and minds. It does dominate when it comes to the 2 World Cups. Rugby union gets more eyes on their product, and we can debate the pros and cons of the quality of rugby union right now and the issues that both codes are facing financially in a variety of areas, and in talent pathways, and in player welfare and rule changes and participation. But I just wish rugby league was a bit better internationally. The club game is fantastic. Rugby union again's got a great club game, but the international game is fantastic, and I will be watching, obviously, England-France in a few hours' time when that kicks off. I'm really looking forward to that test match when it comes to the women's game. Obviously, the World Cup is a couple of weeks away. But there we go, I prefer league over union. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Which one do you prefer, league or union? And give your reasonings why. Do you play? Do you watch? Are you a club member? Be really interested to hear. And if you're new to both codes of rugby, league or union, I always suggest to anyone new to the sport, mostly from obviously North America, check out the NRL, which is rugby league in Australia and New Zealand first, and then watch a couple of rugby union test matches, preferably the Six Nations or the Rugby Championship, just to familiarise yourself. After about 5 or 6 games of watching, there are many union fans and league fans when the penalty is called hardcore who go, I don't what's that been called for, especially in union. There'll be a lot of people a bit, what's the penalty been called for? There's a lot of complex, they call them laws of the game. It's a more complex game to understand, but once you've started playing it and once you've started watching it, it doesn't take long to pick it up. It looks like disorganised chaos at a tackle or a ruck or a maul, but actually there's a lot of organisation there. That's years of player development and training and communication and coaching that goes into that. But it does look like a bit of disorganised mess to a new fan to the game. But there we go. But that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I will have some more content for you all very, very soon.